So now when we're looking at this thing, well, we have a solo producer down here. You start to become a unifier, but it gets really frustrating because all of these people here need to be managed and you don't have time to do it because you are 80 to 90% in treatment right now and you only have like 10% management time. So if you know the law of entropy, okay, law of entropy states that anything left to itself moves towards disorder. So if we're not managing these individuals, we are moving towards chaos, and that's not a good thing because people, right? People equals product. So if we are not able to manage our people, our product gets a little wonky, and that's why people really get beat up in this level here, second, third, fourth provider. But the cool part about it is if you're able to kind of push through this thing and go quickly, that the moment you hire your fourth provider, we could just get the owner out of treatment. So realistically, it's just the second and third providers that are inside of a clinic while the owner is still producing. As long as we could get through those two levels as quickly as possible, this admin is going to also add a layer of admin support. Now we can get to the point where we have this individual here, this fourth individual that just replaces the owner, and now we're out of treatment. Okay, so in this video, we're gonna go over the old cliche, working on your business instead of in your business. Now, I wanna show you kind of the framework for what that looks like, and then also a lot of the mistakes people make when they first start to hire individuals. They usually pull themselves out of treatment way too soon, and it causes a lot of cash flow restrictions. So what I'll do here is I'll map this out for you guys first, and then what we'll do is talk about a couple of our current clients that are going through this transition and kind of what they're experiencing like from a mental standpoint, because you do kind of get beat up a little bit because a lot of owners come in for time freedom, but they realize that they have to earn freedom, and it takes a lot of time, energy, or effort. It's really not a 40-hour-a-week job. So I want to just start throwing that out there. I don't know where that came from, but like owning a business and starting a business is tough. People always talk about like work-life balance, but I kind of look at it like a triad, that we're going to have like our health, and then we're going to have our work or wealth, and then we're going to have our relationships over here. So it's really not like a work-life balance, because people are like, well, here's work, here's life. I just kind of look at it like my health, my personal health, the relationships I have in my life, and then my work. And I got to kind of balance these things out. Now, the problem with this is that a lot of times when people start their business and they have to go all in, a lot of the focus is going to shift over here. And you might be spending like 80% of your time here and like 20% of your time on these other two things, right? Or what we have to do is figure out when can we focus on our health, right? And maybe that's working out in the mornings, and that's eating healthy throughout the day. Like that just takes no time. It's just don't eat fast food versus, eating healthier, and then getting good sleep, right? So that's key, and then staying hydrated. Like those are like, that's healthy things that you can do. And then also just don't go out like lifestyle wise, stay up late, go drinking, doing stuff like that. It's just like health is easy to do. There's not too much there if you're disciplined on that. Relationships, this is where like sometimes we just need to set expectations with the people that we love and just simply say like, hey, I'm in a season of work, right? And I'm going to try to get in as much relationship as we can, but I either need you to help out a little bit more than because I'm going to be over here. I just need you to step up here. And then once this is figured out, I'll be able to kind of step back in and help out more. And my wife and I do a really good job with that, where I'm like, hey, I'm starting a business. I'm going to be in a season of like chaos for the first year or so producing. And then eventually when we start to hire team members and get management in place, whatever that looks like, then I'll be able to come back over to the relationship side and make sure that that's us. And again, I don't neglect it. It's just that the balance is different. So instead of hanging out like every day, we might hang out like twice a week. So it's just, but there's expectations that are set. So the reason why I wanted to mention that is because as we start to look at things and we start to get individuals going from a producer role. So producer role, what that means is the producers basically are just individuals who are business owners who are tied to the service. Okay, they're treating the patients. Okay, they're in a producer role, and the reason why we want to move a producer into a unifier or communicator role as quickly as possible is because these are just 1v1 treatment. It's just one therapist working with the patient. You could do anywhere between like 40. I think the max slots we've ever saw was 80 inside of our program, where they're basically just doing 2 patients an hour kind of thing. Not double booking, just one every half hour. But ultimately, it's just like, well, you're doing one-on-one for an hour, or you're doing as max 80. So So there's only so many, and let's just say each person's coming in twice a week. So really you could only help 20 to 40 people at a time. Like that's it. That's producers. Okay. Now, eventually what you're going to have to do, and remember, like if in some of our other videos, we talk about like one FTE could generate around 20K per month. So if we have an owner who's producing, the max production they could do is $20,000 now per month. Now, what we want to do here is we want to start looking at how do we bring on more producers, and we just manage those individuals. Now, there is this transition period because we have a solo owner that comes in, and then their first hire is going to be an admin. Now, the reason why this is beneficial, and if you run multiple locations and stuff, I'm going to run through just like solo owner to getting out of treatment. And then I'm going to cover like what management looks like for like bigger locations as well. So we got solo owner to admin. And then eventually what's going to happen is this is where you become the unifier. Right? You become the manager. It's the first employee that you have. So you are no longer just a solo producer. You also start to wear the hat of unifier. And you might be like 90% producer and 10% manager. That's okay. Eventually, we want to start making this transition where you're 100% manager and 0% producer, but we will eventually get there. So when we're starting to go through the process here, we have solo owner, and then they go ahead and hire an admin. The reason why we hire an admin first instead of your first provider is because usually a solo owner could get up to around like anywhere between 0 to 10K a month by themselves. Okay. Now we do have some owners that get to 15 or 20K because they're absolute savages. They're grinders. They don't know what working 40 hours a week means. Like they know that they're starting their business and they have to hustle, and they just come in and they're like, I'm going to just save as much money as I can. I don't need an admin. This is going to stink. All right. I'm going to embrace the suck, and I'm just going to kind of brute force this thing, plow through, and they're happy. They love it because they love the grind. They love producing. But eventually what happens is this admin here is going to be able to, because usually what happens is we see owners, they're producing, and then they have to go and do admin work. And then admin work starts to go down. They come back over to producing, and they kind of just stay in this like 10K cycle, right? So it's just like eventually what's going to happen is like, hey, I need to get admin off my plate. So then that way my scale could tip to, well, I guess that's not the way scales tip. That way, so I could just go into producer role. Okay. So now we get an admin in place, and then they're able to get up to 20K in revenue, admin plus owner. And then we have money to be able to bring on our first FTE. The other cool part about it is this admin is now going to be able to fill their schedule and be able to fill their schedule. So now you just successfully hired your first admin, and you just hired your first provider. Okay. Now you're in the early stages of becoming a unifier. Now the problem is that most owners, they get stuck in this phase where you got to do a second provider, second admin, second provider. And then what's going to happen is you're going to get your third provider in there. You're going to be able to bring on a fourth provider. And then what you're going to be able to do is get out of treatment. All right. Pretty cool. Now, what happens here is that this level here, we have to hire a second provider because now we have solo owner first and second. So that's 3 providers working with 1 admin. So in order to fill this provider up, we eventually need to hire this person and then strategically bring on this individual. So then now we have 3 providers and 2 admins. Okay. Because 1 admin, just to be very clear, could handle about 110 visits a week by themselves. So if we look here, we got 60, we got 120, we got 180. We're over that ratio, so we got to bring in somebody else. So now when we're looking at this thing, well, we have a solo producer down here. You start to become a unifier, but it gets really frustrating because all of these people here need to be managed and you don't have time to do it because you are 80 to 90% in treatment right now, and you only have like 10% management time. So if you know the law of entropy, okay, law of entropy states that anything left to itself moves towards disorder. So if we're not managing these individuals, we are moving towards chaos, and that's not a good thing because people, right? People equals product. So if we are not able to manage our people, our product gets a little wonky, and that's why people really get beat up in this level here, second, third, fourth provider. But the cool part about it is if you're able to kind of push through this thing and go quickly, that the moment you hire your fourth provider, we could just get the owner out of treatment. So realistically, it's just the second and third providers that are inside of a clinic while the owner is still producing. As long as we could get through those 2 levels as quickly as possible, this admin is going to also add a layer of admin support. Now we can get to the point where we have this individual here, this fourth individual that just replaces the owner, and now we're out of treatment. Now what we can do is the owner is 100% in management role, and they are 0% in a producer role. Okay. That is why it's really, really important to remove owners and get them out of treatment, because your team members down low count on you to be able to manage them. And I think that's really important to see, because we have a lot of owners that come into our program, and we always ask the question, like, are you an owner who happens to be a producer, or are you a producer who happens to be an owner? And the owners that go really, really quickly are like, no, I'm an owner who happens to be a producer. Awesome. Well, let's get you out of treatment as quickly as possible. Now, for the ones that are like, no, I'm a producer that happens to be an owner, it's like, cool, well, let's find other people to help run your business. So when we're looking at something like this, it's just like, how quickly can we get an owner out? And just hiring an admin to be able to free you up to answer emails and stuff, that is not working on your business. So working on your business, there's two things that we look at. Is like, is your business able to sustain without you there? And can your business grow without you there? The sooner we get you into the growth mode, which I'm going to talk about in a second here, that's when you start to like open things up. So now let's just say you're out of treatment right here, and you want to move over to opening more locations. So when you open more location, the framework is that we bring on your first provider and first admin, okay? And then we want to be able to do is get you to the second provider as quickly as possible, because you're profitable. So now you're starting to make profit here. And then what we want to do is be able to bring on your third provider and your second admin. And then what we want to do is be able to get a fourth provider in there, because that's ideally the framework for launching multiple locations here, is that you want 4 PTs and you want 2 admin ratio. And because that is ideally $80K a month that you're able to generate, keep your expenses around $52K. And now what's going to happen is eventually what you're going to do is identify who here could be your clinical director and office managers, because at each location, we're trying to set up producer manager, producer managers, producer managers. So when we're looking at a location, right, when we look at a location here, ideally what we want to do is we want to have a house of managers and a house of makers. And we want those managers to, manage all the producers, and we want the managers to be able to hire, onboard, and train these people. So then that way, if someone was to leave, right, let's just say this person was to leave, well, this manager is able to hire, onboard, train, and replace, okay? So managers are going to be put in place for retention, right, and sustainability. Like, that's what they're there for. So then that way it frees you up, the owner, to move more into a communicator role, also an operator role, and then also an investor role, because we want you to be able to use your mouth to make your money, and then we want you to be able to grow and invest in different properties, okay? So that's the cool part about this, is that, like, in order for us to get to these higher levels here, we need to be able to get owners out of treatment as quickly as possible, get that leadership team in place. And that's why it's really, really important to go from a maker to a manager as fast as possible. So hopefully this video is beneficial. Maybe it opened you guys up to where you're stuck a little bit. Feel free to subscribe to our channel and watch more of these videos, because the more we can help you get out of treatment and grow big businesses, the more impact and influence that you'll have inside of your community. So appreciate you guys. See you on the next video.